Namaste, and welcome to our continuing series on Savitri. Savitri is the message. When this came to my mind, this title, I had read that Mother said, Savitri is the message, all else is preparation. So we still have some more evenings of the message. And now we are in Book 7, the Book of Yoga, page 478. I will begin at the small break. A conscious soul in the inconscious world, hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams, an indifferent master signing nature's acts, leaves the vicegerent mind a seeming king. In his floating house upon the sea of time, the regent sits at work and never rests. He is a puppet of the dance of time. He is driven by the hours. The moment's call compels him with the thronging of life's need and the babel of the voices of the world. This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. It toils like a machine and cannot stop. Into the body's many-storied rooms, endless crowd down the dream god's messages. All is a hundred-toned murmur and babble and stir. There is a tireless running to and fro, a haste of movement, and a ceaseless cry. The hurried servant senses answer apace to every knock upon the outer doors. Bring in time's visitors. Report each call, admit the thousand queries, and the calls and the messages of communicating minds, and the heavy business of unnumbered lives, and all the thousandfold commerce of the world. Alok Bhai, there's so much here, so much to cover. Please begin for us.
But first, there is the wonderful word of hope. A conscious soul. Soul is always conscious. That is not the problem. The problem is not the soul part is the solution. But it is in an inconscient world. It also means that as we grow conscious of the soul, we become more and more conscious of the unconsciousness of the world. One of the signs of the soul development is that you feel like a stranger in the world. As long as one is not conscious, that story of that lady who came here and was admitted into the yoga, and she says, one day she tells the mother, "What have you done to me?" Why? Before I took to yoga, I had a very wonderful view of the world. All is good, all is nice, bon ami. Now I've become aware of so much which is ugly, so much which is painful. And the mother smiled and said, now take the next step, go further and discover the one behind everything and everywhere. So there is a phase, there is a time when we are well adjusted, so-called well adjusted to the world and its ways, and we don't even realize that we are in a kind of trap, a prison. We don't realize it. Life is moving mechanically. We believe that we are very busy, so it's so wonderful. And we are busy doing, probably most of the time, spoiling God's plan, but for man. And yet we are very happy, earning some little name, fame, money, all this, relatives, getting married, getting busy. This is the average life of the human being. But then a time comes when we begin to wonder, what is this? Is it all? In many, it takes the form of a crisis, unfortunately. So there we see in Savitri, the door inwardly opens, or rather she has chosen it through a tremendous crisis. Same thing we see in the Gita. Arjuna has lived with Krishna, he has moved around with him, he has called him his friend. Madhav, Keshav, come, let's go for a walk, let's have a stroll. And one day, he is confronted with the stark fact that they whom he loved, felt are his own. They are ready to stand against him. And not against him, against dharma, which is so obvious. And he just can't digest. Poor fellow is shaken to the core. And he has, what is his choice? Either to take up arms against his own loved ones and dear ones, or else to leave the game and go out and become a sannyasi.
I had heard, and maybe you can confirm this, that Mother too was fed up with human beings.
Well, both Mother and Sri Aurobindo Sri Aurobindo is such a perfect gentleman that he won't use the word, but time to time, a word or two slipping here and there, one can see that it is not at all easy to live. I compare it like this, that as a human being, if you are suddenly finding yourself surrounded by wild animals who don't understand you, though you understand them, so you can't be like them. You can't start clawing and biting. So something similar to divine beings. And that's what I keep reminding, that every time we see humanity, we should also see the divine love. Otherwise, it is miserable. The only way one can survive, sustain, continue with the journey when we look at humanity as it is stands, is by remembering divine love, what she must have experienced. I can't even imagine what they must have experienced living amongst all of us. Ingratitude, lack of faith, doubt. Sri Aurobindo has said so, but I have my own views, ideas, opinions, all kinds of things. So, how they would have, taking upon themselves all the issues. So, this is a phase when Savitri now wants to go inside there. How do I meet this challenge? This is not her personal challenge, but it's a cosmic challenge. There is death. Somebody whom she loves is going to die. That's how she starts the yogic journey. And then she realizes that it's not just about herself. So many, this love which gets broken at the slightest pretext upon earth, how it can be rooted deep on earthly soil, unpolluted, uncorrupted, pure, holy, with its transforming power. Love is that power which she has embodied. So to root it, and that's why you see death keeps on telling her, no, what you are calling love is nothing but just the gland, the emotions, the effervescence, because that's what love has become. And she keeps reminding him, no, what love is and how it can be restored to its pristine purity. So death stands as the very opponent. Love is the power that unites matter to the divine, lifts it up, is the power of union, of matter and soul, of world and spirit, of world and God. But what humanity has done to it is a different story altogether. And therefore, death stands at its very opposite. He says, no way. I grant you few hours of love. Not more than that.
And little gifts and
little
things.
Gifts here and there. Yeah. And then life is mechanical, routine, everything is the same. That's how it... And then she tells him that you are the one who has, created an unbridgeable gulf. He's the one he has created. So human beings, by the time they are 40, 50, become cynics, or they become practical. Two ways of looking at the same thing. Okay. So practical. You see, all that is very fine, but basically practically you have to see. Now this is how the ideal becomes a ridicule. A matter of, all these are Sri Aurobindo's words, so it's ridiculed, jeered, mocked. Oh, you see in Savitri's search, when she reaches the mental world, there is somebody who still seeks for the soul. Is there a soul? Somebody who still seeks.
The other one. Yeah.
Write your name in the book of the elite. And we'll be happy to give you an insignia. You are one of us. That's it. That's all that is required. Don't seek for the soul. And Savitri says, I cannot rest here. So this is where the journey starts, the parable of the search for the soul. What does she find in the beginning is what is being described here. First finding, when we look within, is chaos. And if we have not found chaos yet within, then we are still not dived a few inches. What a chaos. We are pulled by every little knock, every little thing in life, not shocks, knocks. If you see people, the way they attend the call, the way they are constantly pulled outward by every senses. In a bazaar, you just walk down the promenade here. And as you go, you see, people are pulled by everything they see, everything they hear, experience. This is the matter of discussion whole day. So this is what she's describing, he's describing the real time, yoga in real time. How does it start?
They have their pacifiers also.
Yeah. This is, of course, pacifiers. So WhatsApp. Now, so many things together are pulling us outward. A conscious soul in an inconscient world. Inconscient's world. This world is ruled by the inconscient. It has formed it out of its, so-called nothingness. Hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams. Who is hidden? Conscious soul. It is hidden behind our thoughts and hopes and dreams. And what is it doing? An indifferent master signing nature's acts. So this is the first stage of the, Sri Aurobindo speaks of 3 stages of the soul recognition or evolution. One is when it is anish, it is still the master. Can't, but the master is blind, lame, but still he's the master. So all the managers, ministers come and ask his signature. And he is indifferently signing. Whatever comes on the table, he signs. So, an indifferent master signing nature's acts. Leaves the vicegerent mind a seeming king. So, there is somebody else actually who is deciding on his behalf. And everything the buck is passed on to, he's the boss. So, boss doesn't even know that in my name what all is happening. Nature is, because without that it cannot continue. Master has to give the sanction. Now here, because he is totally hidden behind, indifferent, he doesn't even know exactly. Mind is busy with 100 errands. So it just signs whatever nature brings, wherever it takes, one goes. So this is the stage of anish, not ish. Then the stage is sakshi. He begins to see what's happening around. Witness. And then he becomes ish. He says, no, this must change. In his floating house upon the sea of time, floating house, everything is always moving. Jagatyam Jagat. So, there is no stable ground. If you look at our state, mood from morning. So some people say, no, I act according to my truth. So what is your truth? Well, what I feel inside. Now, what you feel inside in the morning is very different from what you feel inside after 1 hour, what you feel after a few hours, what you feel on an empty stomach, what you feel when your stomach is full. And these feelings keep changing all through, which is considered as I am being myself, true to myself. See, look at it. It's a floating house. There is no anchor. There is no stable ground. In his floating house upon the sea of time, time itself is all the time shifting itself. See, there are huge loops of time which are coming into play. On top of it, there is the human mind. Swami Vivekananda described it very interestingly. I think it was from Sri Ramakrishna when he was asked that how does the mind act? He says, mind is so restless. He described it like, imagine a boat and which is being rocked upon a sea which is in turbulence, and there is the staff of the sail staff, and there is a monkey out there sitting on the sail staff. So that is the state of the human mind. So how does it become still? That is the big challenge. So one of the ways is, this is now my own version, this part. Because when I read it, I said, so how to make it still? So give the monkey a job. Don't leave him jobless. You see, jobless minds are the most restless minds. Give him a work. That's why work purifies. Give a work. Nobody is there to give a work. Give a work to yourself. In military, because it's a very high-end work. But you don't have a work on a everyday basis. After all, you don't. If there is war, there are certain works designed, like every day there will be certain number of shelling, both sides. This one, but that cannot be done all the time. Sometimes you are on a peace time. Most of the time you are not on the border, so you can't be doing shelling. So the joke that used to go is, gadda hodega, dig the ditch. So after it is done, saab, what to do next? Now fill it up. So, devise a job. The mind needs. So to concentrate, work is one of the best means to teach the mind to concentrate. So that's why it is said an empty mind is a devil's workshop. Why? Because now chaotic impulses keep coming. So give it some work. Of course, if the mind has graduated through work into a stage where it can constantly remember the Lord, or reading, these are wonderful works. Give some work so that the mind can, that restless monkey is very happy holding a carrot and eating it, and for some time so this is one of the ways. But that's for later. He is driven by he is a puppet of the dance of time. He is driven by the hours. The moment's call compels him with the thronging of life's needs. So what are the things that compel him? Oh, I am hungry. After some time I need this, I need that. So he's all the time running in life's needs. There is a slight, sense of humor also here. When mother was asked what really are life's needs, he said, actually there is very few. It's almost nil. And yet, every day we have certain things, modicum of necessity, which drives us. And the babble of the voices of the world.
This one is Babel.
Babel. Tower of Babel, right?
Yeah, the Tower of Babel was going to be built, and it could never be built because there were so many different voices. They couldn't understand each other. So the Tower of Babel never got built. There's an interesting notice here also that 7 lines later, we have Babel. So we had Babel and Babel.
Yes.
Babel, something babbling, always talking, like a brook can babble, people babble. So this is
very
Babel.
Often. Tower of Babel is mother spoke of Auroville as a Tower of Babel in reverse. Because
I hope. Yes.
All is a hope.
I'm praying for that.
yeah. So here is, a description of the mind. This mind no silence knows, nor dreamless sleep. People say that I didn't see any dream. It means we were unconscious. Even from the point of view of pure science, every night we enter from the surface into the dream phase, what is called as rapid eye movement. Very scary if you actually look at a person's eyes during that state. So, all the system is going through an overhauling. Your pulse, blood pressure, everything is, onto a overhauling system. And the eyes are moving rapidly. All this actually happens. So, during this phase, the system is on, as if nature is washing out many things and resetting the balance. That's what it is doing. But that process is, nature has perfected it. So during that time, one often dreams. So there are stages through which one goes. So there is the dream sleep. After that, for few moments, we touch the core, which is the
Alpha.
Yeah, alpha from the EEG point of view, but we touch the deeper state from where we, for just a moment, we touch the soul. And then we come out fresh and rejuvenated. But there must be time enough for it to touch that core. Now, those who know how to touch the core can do it without actually sleeping. But the distance between the surface and the depth is so much. The more number of messages and everything that we have registered, all that the mind will go through that haze and maze, which is a long process, whole jumble. So there is nothing like dreamless sleep. We say that we haven't dreamt because we are not conscious enough. We don't register things and don't bring it to the waking state. One of the signs that one is developing in yoga is that it often brings back the memory of the dream state, because it makes us conscious in the unconscious. So we become aware of the dreams, and then of course the significance, etc.
Children have it almost consciously, easily.
Yes, because they are not so much like adults, fortunately. In the incessant circling of its steps, thoughts tread forever through the listening brain. The circuits of the brain are all the time active. Current is running and thoughts are constantly impacting. Where do these thoughts come from? They come from the entire cosmos. So they are coming from different layers. It toys like a machine and cannot stop. There is not a moment when the mind stops. That's why one of the ultimate criteria that a person is dead is the brain dead, when actually nothing is happening, nothing is being registered in the brain. So brain dead, because otherwise the mind is constantly active. Actually the entire human body system, the heart is constantly active, all the systems. If you look at it that way about the human body, it's fascinating what a machine it is. That for decades it continues. Just imagine the heart constantly pumping, constantly, and nobody tells it. It's like nobody has at birth said, okay, watch, you have put the... Automatically it goes on and on and on, and it knows how to upgrade, downgrade, depending on, the people we meet. And it goes on, serves you for 70, 80 years, all the nephrons. If one could see it in real time, even the thoughts, that how they run through the brain, the synapses, the current, it's just amazing. So this is the machine that goes on. Into the body's many storied rooms, endless crowd down the dream god's messages. So the dream god is the world which is behind this tangible, visible world. So there are many sensations and perceptions of which we are normally not aware, ordinarily. So people must have noticed that almost all the pains increase when it is night. Because consciousness tends to automatically come back and we begin to register things which we had not registered. And a little pain here suddenly amplifies to what extent. So all the sensations here, there, from the body's toe to the brain, all the little things which have come to us begin to rise up in that state of sleep from the subconscious. All is a 100-toned murmur and babble and stir. Meaningless talk like that. So many of the images, 90% of the dreams, come from the subconscious. Sometimes if one sleeps on a heavy stomach, so one has nightmares, well known. If you have slept with a kind of watching a movie which is full of, lot of excitement and violence, then it goes on inside the brain. Sometimes you may even complete a half-seen serial, but that's not how we should sleep. But people who sleep with animated discussions, not uncommon in human settings. I was going to say Indian settings, but I don't know, human settings. So all this goes on because you have triggered a thing. Now people think now it's over. It's not over by saying it's over. There is something called in brain as mirror neurons. So whatever you have experienced even for 5-10 minutes, it goes on mirroring, repeating itself into the neuron. That's why they say that when you go to a hospital, tell something nice. So it will keep mirroring even after you have gone. Give a nice smile and say. But if you go and say, oh my God, I heard you had corona, oh my God. And then you add television network. I believe lot of deaths are, oh poor fellow is there, Yes, even in Pandey we had so many cases. He is wanting to hear from you some positive word. Now after you have gone, this keeps mirroring inside. He was not watching TV, so was safe. There is a joke about it that someone asked two people roaming around without a mask and something. He said, how come you people are corona free? He said, because we don't watch TV. So we have a little common cold, it passes away. Now, so this is the impact, because this all visuals and graphic details, and it has an impact upon us. Fear creates panic, accelerates the immune system into a hyper response. A lot of people died because of that. It's a very well-known thing. That's why people started using steroids. The reason is because they discovered, they'll not tell you that it's because of fear and panic. Because, who are the creators? I did not speak about it. But steroids came into use precisely because people discovered many are dying because of hyperimmune response. Your body, it's a normal virus which has come, or an abnormal virus, whatever you want to tell it. Normally your body would take it, halka thandi hai, jukam hai, and you'll be fine. But now the mind has stored up messages. Subconscious. I have a cold, uncommon cold. No more a common cold. No, dangerous cold. So what happens? Mind is the master organ, the vicegerent. Soul is not having a say. Mind has been given absolute authority. He says, I must fight out this fellow. So it becomes extremely aggressive. Viruses, he says, I came just to take a little bit, 2-3 days rest, and I'll go away. Now you are cascading, so virus also, becomes very aggressive. It's a known thing actually. So both ways, on one side the virus is aggressive, you have turned the body into a battlefield, and hyperimmune responses start creating damages to the body, because even immune response, a lot of people, autoimmune disorders are there. So they discovered that steroids are helpful because of the hyperimmune responses. So this is now established, but nobody will talk this way that, it's because of fear and panic which people have created. So all these things are there. All is 100-fold murmur and babble and stir. There is a tireless running to and fro, back and forth. A haste of movement and a ceaseless cry. This is a very much like a modern approach of life, fast food life, where everything must be quick. How many minutes you will get delivered your food, and everything, the way the ambulances come and take you. When I hear the hooting sounds, I sometimes wonder that whether this man will stay alive through this process. Have you heard? I don't know whether inside you can hear it or not. I hope not. It is such a hooting sound, makes you feel that now it's a question of minutes. Your life is hanging by minutes. And unless, I don't know inside whether you actually hear this sound or not, but it's not a good, there must be something more, or at least they should have a parallel, something playing inside which is beautiful as you enter. So this is all the time, all this is happening. A haste of movement and a ceaseless cry. The hurried servant senses answer apace. Senses are servants. So all the time they are hurrying for everything. A little touch here and what is it, a bite, then smell and taste and eyes and ears and everything. All the time they are reaching out to the mind, because mind is the sixth sense. Mind is the integrating sense. Mind is not buddhi in Indian psychology. Buddhi evolves out of the mind. That's later. Initially, buddhi is the discerning intellect. He is the one who holds the reins. The rein is the mind. And the senses are the steed. That's how it is described.
Do you see the ceaseless cry as the wanting, the need, the desire, the
Plenty.
demands?
plenty.
Just
every sense, it's...
Exactly.
So, for instance, now in WhatsApp, one of the things we all have, now you can't stop, that. And also because if you have to answer, it's part of your job, so you can't completely stop that. I mean, life is organized like that. But what you can do is, there are many, for instance, videos and this thing. You need not open everything. Otherwise, mechanically, every video you have to open and see to the end. And you have to also give a comment. Not needed. So, just focus on that. Focus on itself will be big enough list. Just focus on the things which are essential. And especially groups. The less you go, the better it is. It's just some practical techniques. So, otherwise you'll be flooded. So, fix a time when you will check. That's one of the ways. The hurried servant senses answer apace to every knock upon the outer doors, which are the where the senses are picking up the signals from. Bring in time's visitors, report each call. Admit the 1,000 queries and the calls. Whose queries are these? They are not like query is query. It is like every impact the mind has to know. That's meaning, give a meaning. It must change it into a perception, because these impacts are coming purely as energy impacts. They're like, for instance, our eyes. We don't see the tree by the eye. We see it with the mind. The eyes are only reporting the photons as they are entering. That's all. It's a stream of energy entering. Now the pattern is such. This is one of the challenges in neurology. Pattern recognition. How does the mind recognize, build a pattern? So it picks up those signals. That's why if the signals are disordered because of certain conditions, there is a condition called as cortical blindness, where you are actually seeing but you say you are blind. And you are not feigning. Fascinating conditions. So you are getting all the signals in the brain. Now the mind will come in. Okay. It's quickly gathering everything, making a perception, giving a meaning. Meanwhile, another is coming, third one is coming, fourth one is coming. Constantly it is coming. Streaming in, live streaming. So this is what admits the
1,000 queries.
And the messages of communicating mind. This is not bad enough. This is quite big job. Then there are directly, not through the senses, directly communicating minds. They may be sitting far away, thinking about you intensely, and you have those, as they say, hiccups. So they are coming and entering, and especially with yoga, when the mind opens, enters a larger territory. That's why ignorance is bliss. At one point, as the mind expands, it enters the cosmic mind, countless communicating minds. With the mother, even hemorrhage happening somewhere in somebody gets translated in a way in her body and mind. And one is to handle. Mothers used to say, thousands of queries are actually coming all the time. Now, for her, it was a conscious cry for help. And she had to respond to it. So, Sri Aurobindo was asked, does he remember all of them? He says, no, then it is maddening if one has to remember. But it's not like an encyclopedia. But if necessary, she can recall it. But usually one just replies, answers.
And when she said there was a problem in New York, she had a pain in her shoulder.
Yes. So when we enlarge ourselves into a cosmic consciousness, then we become acutely aware of this. Sri Aurobindo even goes on to say, I am the stab that somebody experiences, I feel it. The joy of someone else, I experience it. I am the life of the village and the continent. So what is the way? The way is to, now how to handle it, how to respond to these queries. So all these are valid questions. So what is the way to do it? Respond if you live within, with the eye of the soul, and keep live streaming out. Peace. Doesn't matter. Whatever is the thing streaming in, ultimately human beings need peace. The world needs peace. That's why this was inbuilt within Indian civilization. That, and Mother speaks of that, Shanti. Now, once a ground is built, your matrix becomes full of these light and peace. Then there is nothing to be done consciously, because whatever comes and touches it goes back and bounces as peace, peace. Buddha's presence is peace. So this is the approach. But first the ground must be made, for which one has to learn to step back. So that's what Savitri is showing us, the first step. Learn to step back and not rush into every call. And the heavy business of unnumbered lives and all the thousandfold commerce of the world. So this is a secret commerce going on, what is called as interchange. There is the mental interchange, which is still okay, but vital interchange. So vital interchange is when we mix closely with people. People don't realize, this I have seen and I've never understood how on phone for half an hour with totally unknown random people, some relative calls you and there are people who can talk for half an hour and meaningless things. I can understand if there is some sense or somebody who is closely connected to you, but absolutely random calls. Meaningless. Even after the conversation is over, okay, how is the weather there? Then a new thread will start. Then the person is not asked, you are saying, how's the weather here? And then when it's time to put down, I'm telling you a typical conversation. Mm-hmm. And one of the things which is most annoying about, I don't know how it is outside, but Indian homes, I must say. Everything is over, dinner is over, you are served that cardamom to eat and, it's like saying, okay, bye-bye. And you have said, okay, goodbye, we'll meet again, aujo and all. You come out. So the people in the house also step out. See, everybody knows what I'm talking about. Just before you are leaving, you suddenly say, Acha, by the way, or some such comment. Something like, where did you get these shoes? Some random comment. 15 minutes discussion will go on because it will again take another route. And there are people who are standing outside. Some insignificant something. This is the state of the human mind. So when you see it, you wonder, engaging in yoga, first you have to learn to disconnect from all these things. Totally random events. Triggered by just a little sight here, a little sight there. Oh, where did you get this wall painted? Oh, this is a nice thing. So this is how it goes on. What a chaos. So 1,000 and all the thousandfold commerce of the world. This is a secret commerce. And people with whom we intimately converse, especially animated discussions or what goes in the name of what we call as love. So there, this vital interchange can be very tricky. If one is developed, one tends to lose. It's a different thing in love. Loss and gain are often balanced out. And if one is not developed, then one tends to gain. If you are, engaging someone, like with mother, she would play, do everything, but very consciously.
I think we should continue on.
Yeah, some more.
Even in the tracks of sleep is scant repose. He marks life's steps in strange, subconscious dreams. He strays in a subtle realm of symbol scenes. His night with thin air visions and dim forms he packs, or peoples with slight drifting shapes, and only a moment spends in silent self.
So this is what we were saying, that only a few moments consciousness goes into the depths and touches the silent self. That's what rejuvenates it. And that's why chronic sleep disturbances is so dangerous. Because whole nature starts becoming turbulent, restless, abnormal conditions, precisely because, that silent self is not being contacted. Of course, those who are accustomed to meditation, you can do it, through meditation, but it takes time. We'll read this page, something.
Yeah. Yes, until that last line, I think it'd be beautiful, yes. Adventuring into infinite mind space, he unfolds his wings of thought in inner air, or traveling in imagination's car, crosses the globe, journeys beneath the stars, to subtle worlds takes his ethereal course, visits the gods on life's miraculous peaks, communicates with heaven, tampers with hell.
Such a real graphic description. In Synthesis of Yoga, Sri Aurobindo describes this whole thing very beautifully. He says, when we begin to go within, is there in the Yoga of Works, the first thing that we encounter is the disorderly order. We call it an order, but we see a total chaos. If we have to just observe our mind one day, the way it runs chaotically from. That's why one of the simplest thing is how to concentrate the thought in a certain direction, along a certain channel, over a certain idea. Meditation, simplest of things. Even in discussions, you'll see how people are running completely in a different direction. So learn to focus the thought on the core idea. Weave around it. But this itself is a big work. And imaginations and all these things, gods and heaven and hell, everywhere it goes. And then he says something very interesting. This is the little surface of man's life.
This is the little surface of man's life. He is this, and he is all the universe. He scales the unseen, his depths dare the abyss. A whole mysterious world is locked within. Unknown to himself, he lives a hidden king. Behind rich tapestries, in great secret rooms, an epicure of the spirit's unseen joys, he lives on the sweet honey of solitude. A nameless God in an unapproachable fane, in the secret adytum of his inmost soul, he guards the being's covered mysteries beneath the threshold, behind shadowy gates, or shut in vast cellars of inconscient sleep.
So this keeps us tied to the surface, this entire play which has been described. And so long as we remain tied to the surface, there is little hope of, we can use big words, soul is there, and we can talk about all these things, but ultimately, at some point of time, we have to take the very first step, which is to step back. That's what the mother beautifully explains. First step is to step back. And she says, you look at this whirl of forces which are going around. So how to make sense of it? She says, don't try to make sense. Just see how much of it is really useful for the goal. So she says, you will see that 99% of the things, she doesn't use the word 99%, but most of it is useless. It has really nothing to do with the goal that you are seeking. So stay focused on the goal. And see that most of the things are so transient, so temporary. Whereas the goal is eternal, it's so vast. And if we really value it, we'll see that most of these things, after a while, rise, fall, go. But to stay focused inside. This is what she says.
I feel that it is self-defeating to be too conscious of what's happening in the government, in the world.
It is another way of tying ourselves to all the... And second part is, most importantly, we must understand that what we are seeing, whether through media, through any kind of... None of it will be true. We should start with this axiomatic assumption. If we have to make an assumption, we should start with this axiomatic assumption that the world is still governed by forces of falsehood. Still governed. This is a sad fact. Now, yes, good things are happening. Divine will use many things for the ultimate good. That's different. But our preoccupation should be first to open that eye that can see. Right now we are like Dumat Sena, blind. And we see and we don't understand. We react, adding more and more, So we must wait and, behind everything, behind this dance, this whirl, which is carrying human beings like fly upon a storm. That's how the mother speaks of it. And yet, Beneath the threshold are so many wonders awaiting us. And so beautiful description toward the last few lines.
The immaculate, divine, all wonderful, casts into the argent purity of his soul his splendor and his greatness and the light of self-creation in time's infinity, as into a sublimely mirroring glass.
So it is through the soul that he pours into us all the beauty and splendor and peace and light and everything. So if ultimately we feel a little bit on the surface, but the right place where one should drink the honey is to go deep inside. That's where we have the pure honey from the lotus. And we can drink it from the Divine Mother's hands.
Shall we end with the last line?
This last line, yes.
Man in the world's life works out the dreams of God.
So the only difference is whether we become conscious instruments or unconscious ones. Unconscious means we are tossed and twisted and turned by all the forces eventually, because what is nature? Nature is also a conscious front of God. She will end up getting it done. Or if we are conscious, then we participate, we have the joy, there is no more the suffering, and we know what is the right thing to do. Otherwise, nature will end up doing right. Here is in terms of what will help the divine plan ultimately fulfill itself. In that sense, it is the right. It will end up doing it, but through so much pain, suffering, misery, and through such a long and complex process. But when we are conscious, it is done swiftly, smoothly, happily.
We
collaborate joyously. So we'll stop here, but I must say that for those, I'm sure all of us are interested, the next 2.5 pages take us through what more is there. So just a few lines I'll read and then we'll stop.
Very
but
good.
All is there, even God's opposites. He is a little front of nature's works, a thinking outline of a cryptic force. All she reveals in him, that is in her. Nature, all that nature, right from the lowest ranges to the highest, nature sends to man. Handle this, handle this, handle that. So all. Her glories walk in him, and her darknesses. Man's house of life holds not the gods alone. There are occult shadows, there are tenebrous powers, inhabitants of life's ominous nether rooms, a shadowy world, stupendous denizens. A careless guardian of his nature's powers, man harbors dangerous forces in his house, the titan and the fury and the jinn. But at the end comes the master line. But there is a guardian power. There are hands that save. Calm, eyes divine, regard the human scene. So all this one has to encounter when one goes within. It is not like, feel good yoga, sit down, take this mantra, you'll feel peaceful, nice, tranquil music. If it is still only this stage is going on, then it is really in frenzy. You have to get past that feel good factor. Walk in real time. This is a journey in real time. And as one goes deeper and deeper, all these things wake up. The gods come to assist because they realize now here is somebody who is getting ready. And the titans start opposing. It becomes the field of a battle, the battlefield, the Devasur Sangram. And yet he reminds us, and yet there is a guardian power. There are hands that save. Calm, eyes divine, regard the human scene. So don't advise that Sri Aurobindo repeatedly, don't try it on your own, lean upon the mother, her grace. And if one has not formed this habit, no, I'll do it myself. Yoga is not I'll do it myself. because things can come and completely upset the world. So when we have learned to open to Mother's grace, she knows how to really handle these. She is the master. If this is nature, she is super nature. So she knows how to take care of all these elements. The beast comes and looks at her and says, I'll become your Vahana. The Asura and Rakshas come and says, take my Namund Malini, remove my ego. And if human consciousness tries it all alone, then we can understand.
I have seen in my own life that some things to be gotten rid of would take a tremendous tapasya and maybe many lives. And yet, Mother lifted them just like that. In an instant, she took it away. And another one, and another one.
Yes. Absolutely true. And she does it in ways which are incalculable.
Yeah, you don't even realize
We could have even imagined that this could be a way.
Yes.
Only she can do it.
Yes, yes.
She can take you through a trapdoor into freedom. It's unimaginable.
Yes.
So this is, the more we get into this journey, it's so wonderful. It's a journey in real time. Yoga is not an easy to do step 1, step 2, step 3 process. We can see it is to wade through. Just to close with one experience of Sahanadi, what these forces are. So one day she sees at night that there is an ocean and she is caught up in it, and she's jostled by beasts, all ungainly beasts, and they're all around her, and she doesn't know what to do, whether she can really reach anywhere or not, and she feels so lost and frightening whole image. Imagine all around there are beasts, and then suddenly she remembers, but Sri Aurobindo is there. And as she remembers him, you have to take me to the other side. It's not in my hands. And then she sees that while they continue, a passage is created, and she sees on the other side Sri Aurobindo and the mother. Chhotnarayanji once mentioned something very similar. That he sees that there are a lot of people all around and he's also there. And suddenly there is a cry all around, Jarasandhaya, Jarasandhaya. Jarasandh is of course, a Mahabharata character, but he represents something. The joining of the thighs, it's a union of the beast and man. So that kind, Jarasandhaya, Jarasandhaya. And everybody starts running terror-stricken. So for a moment he also, feels a lot of fear. Where to go? What? People are running. And then he says, but Sri Aurobindo and the mother are there. And then he sees suddenly the scene changes, and right across on the other side there is Sri Aurobindo and the mother, and all becomes calm. So the thing is, because people would read and, oh my God, this is the first step. Yes, but first step, second step, all steps, let it be her steps. Namaste.
Namaste all. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.